Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you very much for your time today. Very excited to talk to you about Sanditon season 2. I have to start first, of course, with, for you as actors, it all starts with the writing. And we saw exquisite writing in season 1, and season 2 seems to be as strong as it ever was. Is that what's excited you about returning to the show?
Yes, I mean, you know, obviously when season 1 ended and originally it was cancelled, you know, there's always a feeling when you don't get to, you know, revisit the characters or do more with the characters. There's very little you can do, especially in a big ensemble piece. There's a sort of limit to what you can do in just 8 episodes. So the chance to get this amazing show back up and running for 2 more series was just I mean, it was like the dream, really, and you know, off the back of the fans and the popularity of it across the world, and so it's this exquisite writing and exquisite sort of you know, the sort of vernacular of the show and the turn of phrase that was used during that time. It was just a joy to be back on board with it.
Yeah, because Turlough, when we're a lot, obviously it's based originally on Jane Austen's book that was never completed, yet it feels very authentic to her kind of writing style, yet the story feels very contemporary. Was that something that attracted you as well?
Oh yeah, 100%. It was for me, whenever it was first you know, brought out to me, and I was in meetings for it and blah blah, I was so excited about it because I was like, this is hilarious writing, this is so funny, and rarely have I found period dramas to actually make me laugh out loud when I was reading the script. I was kind of like, yeah, I get where you're going, but this one was like, that's hilarious. And then there was also so much pathos to it and so much truth to all the characters as well. It's like, God, this is special. This has got something really, really special, and I think people will really connect with it. And I think having the first 13 chapters or so that were written, there was so much in there. There was so much, as Kris said, there's so much to be able to understand of your character and dive into, that it sort of opened up this big, beautiful flower of things that can be done, and it was really, really lovely. Yeah.
And with regards to you know, your characters, Tom, I saw him as an idealist. He's flawed in many ways as well. There was a real sort of character arc with him. Can you tell us a little bit more about what we can expect and where we see Tom's character going in Sanditon 2, sorry.
So I think you know, you mentioned about, you know, Tom's flaws, you know, and for me that's the most interesting part in any character is you know, their flaws and how they deal with their flaws and how they grow through that. I think the thing with Tom is, you know, he tries to gloss over anything bad, anything negative. He tries to gloss over it. He's a sort of person, you know, who's constantly upbeat, trying to strive for anything positive. Everything is positive. You know, we could do this. This is, you know, he's a can-do person. When he's you know, faced with, for example, grief of you know, a loss of someone so close to him, he sort of is easy to, his sort of stock way of dealing with it is to gloss over it, pretend it almost hasn't happened. And so you know, what's really beautiful about season 2 is that really, without mentioning the grief, you can see it all over his character. And so you can't really, it's not really talked about, but you can, but for me, it's always there. And through the series, with Arthur, especially, you know, they sort of work out that grief together without ever really talking about it. And I think you know, it's testament to Justin's writing, you know, that, you know, it's always there in the background. It's always, and it really does sort of, you know, it's like a vein that runs through the narrative for Tom, definitely, and for Arthur, I'm sure.
And actually, with regards to Arthur Turlough, we see there is a much more sort of closeness within the relationship between you two. There's also something kind of alluded to at the end of season 1 with regards to Arthur's inclinations, shall we say, and I wondered whether you get to explore that a little bit more in season 2.
So at the end of season 1, Arthur begins the process of learning about himself and growing. And that process continues throughout 2 and 3. He really begins to understand his place in the world. He begins to understand himself really clearly. And it's like with everything, life is a tapestry. And whenever he was living in one little corner with Diana and you know, living in that little bit, he couldn't see the rest of this beautiful tapestry of him. And he begins to find and begins to really, really open up his world to so many possibilities. And I think the growth that he has with his brother, with Tom, is really, really beautiful. And Arthur tries and fails, but tries to step into the shoes of Sydney within the family unit, of going, well, someone needs to keep Tom not spending everything we have. But also, I've got ideas and I've got value in this world that I didn't know I had before. You know, Arthur begins to realize, hey, my voice actually means something. And with that lack of connection with that undermining and underestimated person, he then also develops that growth with Georgiana as well, that they see an other in each other, an otherness to society that really helps them develop a very deep bond of friendship. And yeah.
Well, I think as well, Kris, what you picked up on, and I suppose it's a question to both of you with regards to all of the characters really and the themes within the show, they're very relatable. You know, it is a period drama, but, you know, we all love, we all strive, we have ambitions. And I wonder whether those themes make, you know, the show, you know, relatable to audiences as well, really.
Yes, I think that's completely correct. I think, you know, if audiences didn't find some common ground with the characters, you know, if they weren't relatable in any way, then you don't really have a show, you know. And I think that, you know, it's you know, Jane Austen's writing was made characters really relatable. You know, she sort of wrote across the ages, really. And I think that's a beautiful thing about, you know, the classic writers, British writers especially. They sort of, you know, it crosses, it transcends age, you know. I mean, of course, you know, the rest of it, like Turlough was saying, it's just tapestry, you know. So it's, you know, you can place them in any tapestry, and the you know, and those human emotions are still current now, even more so. You know, the flaws, you know, the grief, the dilemmas they all suffer and face. You know, and they're human. You know, they're human, and ultimately humans relate to other humans.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course it's a period drama, and for you as actors, with regards to your preparation, you obviously know, you know, your characters inside out, but as soon as you step into a costume and you even put, you know, put the underwear on, let alone the outer garments, how does that help you then just kind of elevate your character and your performance, really? Turlough, if you can start with us.
It just feels like you're just doing dress up again. It's amazing. It's the best thing, and that's something which TV and film, that's why it's an amazing form of this art, because you dress up, you're wandering around, there's a load of supporting artists also dressed up, some of them on horses and carriages, and people walking about with actual bread. And, you know, on the first time that they'll shoot, I know actual bread is an important matter for me. But, you know, whenever they're doing like the wide on the first take or whatever, you can't really see the camera. And you're sort of wandering around going, if I didn't know any better, I'm in this world. So it becomes really easy to do it because you're like, that door actually works. I can walk through there if I want to. I can go into that shop. I could stop in the middle of the scene and ask that baker for, again, a piece of bread. And he'd be able to give it to me. But, you know, that's what's wonderful. And all of the set design and all of the props and everything made it so tactile. Whenever we were doing pieces in Tom's office, for example, we could pick up everything and we could move it and make it into the world. So we'd be going, what about this thing here, that compass, or what about that? And it felt like, oh, I don't really have to do much else. I just have to make sure I get the words right, and the rest is done for you. It's quite wonderful in that way.
And Kris, just finally, as I have to leave you, what can audiences expect from Sanditon series 2?
Well, they can expect a lot of love, a lot of loss, and a lot of growth. And mainly what they can expect is, you know, really good stories that and a deeper sort of delve into the characters than we had in season 1. You know, I think you see much richer storytelling, you know, because we had the sort of benefit of series 2 and 3, that we could start a storyline in 2 that didn't necessarily have to be packed up in a nice little package by the end of episode 6. You know, there are threads that could carry on. I mean, even though season 3 is a standalone series of its very own, you know, so I think, you know, the sort of depth of character, and lots of fun, lots of balls, you know, lots of the army's in town, so lots of men in red coats, if that's your type of thing. You know, it's it's something for everyone.
Something for everyone. Gentlemen, lovely to meet you, and best of luck with the show. I've loved what I've seen so far, so I can't wait to see the rest. Take care. Enjoy your day. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey!